Caleb didn't even notice her hand on my shoulder when I walked down the aisle. But I did. I felt the tremor in her fingers, the kind that comes when power slips through your grip. Her jaw dropped, her smile cracked, and in that split second, I knew she finally understood what I'd done. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The first time I met Evelyn, Caleb's mother, she greeted me with pearls and poison. She called me a pretty thing, the way someone might describe a vase they intend to move out of the sunlight. Caleb thought she was charming. I thought she was calculating. Still, I wanted her approval. That was my first mistake. She'd built her whole life on control, over her son, over appearances, over anyone who dared to step into her empire of lace curtains and whispered judgments. I thought love could soften her. Turns out, it only gave her another weakness to exploit: me. It started small. She'd forget to invite me to family dinners, correct my table manners, tell Caleb she was only trying to help. I smiled through it, believing it was just tension, mothers and sons, adjustment. Then came the wedding plans. She offered to handle the dress fittings since Caleb was too busy. Family tradition, she said, eyes glittering like glass shards. I agreed. Why wouldn't I? The week before the wedding, she called, voice syrupy sweet. "Darling, the boutique misplaced your gown. Disaster, but don't worry, I have the perfect solution." When I arrived, she unveiled it. A century-old, yellowed gown that smelled faintly of dust and mothballs. This belonged to my grandmother. Caleb adores family heirlooms. He'll love you in it. I stared at the gown. At her smirk. You're serious? Her chin lifted. Caleb trusts my taste more than yours. That line, sharp as glass, cut deeper than she knew. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply smiled and told her I'd wear it. And that was the moment she lost. The night before the wedding, I sat on the edge of my bed, holding that decaying relic of a dress. I thought about every subtle cruelty she'd masked with pearls, the way she'd pulled Caleb's loyalty from me thread by thread. I could have confronted her, exposed her, but that would have made me small, predictable. So I planned instead. I called the boutique. My real gown hadn't been lost. It had been rejected. Evelyn had told them the bride changed her mind. Luckily, I'd befriended the seamstress. She met me after hours, nervous but loyal. We made a few changes, a few strategic swaps. I paid double to keep it secret. And I smiled when I imagined Evelyn's face. The morning of the wedding, she hovered in my suite like a queen inspecting her pawn. "You'll thank me," she said, smoothing the yellowed fabric over my shoulder. "This is what grace looks like." "Yes," I murmured, "grace." When I arrived at the church, Caleb's eyes softened. He didn't notice the tension, or the way his mother's smile faltered when she saw me standing at the doors, because I wasn't wearing her antique gown, not anymore. I'd had the seamstress reconstructed, using the lace from her grandmother's dress, but layered over my original gown. The yellowed fabric had been restored, brightened, repurposed. It wasn't an heirloom anymore. It was art. My art. The crowd gasped when I appeared. The lace shimmered like liquid ivory. The bodice fitted perfectly. The skirt light as air. It was modern and vintage at once, a visual contradiction she couldn't claim. Evelyn's face drained of color. Her precious family legacy was now part of my story, my design, my name. And then the priest began. At the reception, guests couldn't stop complimenting the dress. Evelyn tried to smile through clenched teeth, correcting anyone who called it innovative. "It's an old family piece," she whispered, desperate to keep her hold. Oh no, I corrected softly, stepping beside her. It was inspired by her family's gown, but I had it remade, restored. It's mine now. Her hand trembled around her champagne flute. You? I thought Caleb should see what trust really looks like, I said, just loud enough for her to hear. You taught me that. For once she had no words, just silence and the faintest crack in her perfect posture. Later that night, Caleb told me he'd never seen his mother so quiet. "I think she finally respects you," he said, laughing. I smiled into my glass. Something like that. He didn't notice the boutique's business card tucked discreetly into her clutch, the invoice with her name on it, proof that she'd tried to sabotage my gown. By morning, it would circulate through the social circles she ruled. The society pages would call it a scandal of taste. I didn't need to ruin her publicly, just privately enough that every whispered compliment about my dress would echo as her own humiliation. That was my vow that day, not just to Caleb, but to myself. Never again would I let someone rewrite my story.